all about co-teaching in the classroom and how it affects student achievement levels. And my mentor for this project was Dr. Nettleton, as she said before. So you might be asking, what exactly is co-teaching? Most of you all know, but co-teaching is a delivery mode of instruction where there's two teachers in the classroom. One teacher may be teaching the lesson and the other teacher just may be circulating, making sure students are staying on track, maintaining attention, reaching their goals. Both teachers are informed on the content knowledge. They know where the lesson is going, the individual needs of each of the students, and what they need to reach their goals. And so having two teachers in the classroom is really beneficial, I have found. And so is two really better than one? I have been able to be a part of the Professional Partnership Network for the past 3 semesters, and it has been a great opportunity for me. Basically, the Professional Partnership Network, also known as the PPN, is a collaboration between Rowan County Schools and Morehead State's College of Education, where when I joined, I can get 500 extra hours in the classroom. This will be a great experience, and it'll look great on the resume and having that time in the classroom. But I had no idea how much my presence in the classroom would end up benefiting the students. And I got to learn so much about co-teaching models and different modes of teaching through participating in this program. And I began the program as a junior, and I will be completing the program this evening. And so since being in the classrooms, I decided to look at, well, is there really data and research that back up the fact that being in the classroom and having two teachers really is beneficial for the students? So my project direction came about last semester through this action research project. And I was in a 4th grade class in Rowan County last semester, and I was there 3 days a week throughout the 16 weeks of the semester. And I decided to do my research with our social studies class. The students circulate for social studies, so we had our homeroom class as well as 2 other classes. And so what I decided to do for the experimental group in this study was our homeroom class. And these students had the co-teaching going on. My mentor teacher, she would be teaching the lesson, and I would go around and circulate, answer questions, make sure that they were on task and completing what they needed to for the lesson. Or we would both teach different parts of the lesson. She would teach half and I would teach the other half. Maybe I would do the assessment and she would do the instruction. Or sometimes I would teach everything and she would be the circulating. So we both were key components in teaching with the experimental group. Whereas with the control group, that was one of the other 4th grade classes that came in for social studies. They did not have the co-teaching going on in the classroom. I kind of sat back and observed what was occurring with just the traditional methods of having one teacher in the classroom and seeing how it affected the students' success in the lesson. And so I looked at students' achievement levels specifically with their social studies learning logs. And the students at the beginning of the year, they were told exactly what was expected of them in keeping up with their social studies learning logs. And so I kept track of their achievement with that and then looked at how it correlated to their success on tests. The social studies learning log was a great tool for them to use to prepare and study for the tests, and it also monitored whether or not they were truly paying attention in class. And so to monitor their achievement with the social studies learning logs, I used this sheet here. And what I would do is each time that the students would get a new set of notes, I would keep track of each student individually. Did they add the notes to their table of contents? Did they label the page numbers? Did they record all the notes? Which is crucial because if only part of the notes was recorded, then they wouldn't be able to have all the information they needed to master for the test. And did they have the correct heading? Did they record the date? And these skills are really important for the students to have mastered before they get into middle school, having those organization skills. And so this was the achievement that I was measuring for each student in both the experimental group and the control group. So the data collection occurred over 2 units, and the first unit was over the Kentucky symbols, and the students learned all about the state of Kentucky, being that is part of the 4th grade curriculum. And then the second unit, there was 5 journal entries with that, and it was over government, the 3 branches of government, government vocabulary, and Kentucky government and the levels of government. So these were the headings in their notes for those different sections. So there were 2 different unit tests that also corresponded with these journal entries. So as you can see, this is a graph of their achievement in their social studies learning logs. The red line represents the experimental group, and these are the students that did have co-teaching occurring in the classroom. And the orange line represents the control group, and those are the students who did not have the co-teaching occurring in the classroom. You can see there is a large gap between the achievement levels for the students who did not have co-teaching. Only about 75% of the students in the control group consistently recorded all their notes, whereas 92% of the students in the experimental group kept up with their notes. So having that extra person circulating the classroom, are you getting the notes? Did you record the heading? Did you get this? Are you paying attention? Redirecting? That really affected their achievement on their social studies learning logs, as you can see. And the table of contents, most of the students in the control group did not keep up with their table of contents. They had the first table of contents edition that they did as a class, but then they did not keep up with that responsibility, whereas about 86% of the students in the experimental group did keep up with that. And also you can see the correct heading. Only about 45% of the students in the control group kept up with their headings. They didn't know what their notes were about if they didn't have the headings. So the social studies learning log wasn't as beneficial of a tool to them if they did not have it correctly organized and laid out for them. Now on this next slide, you'll see this is the class averages on the test. And in the Kentucky Symbols test, the control group as a class received an average of 88%, which is a B. And then the students in the experimental group, those are the students that did have co-teaching occurring, they received a class average of 94% on the Kentucky Symbols test. So there's a 6% difference there, and also a 94% is an A. So they, as a class, received a average of an A. And then on the government test, this is when you could definitely see the difference. With the Kentucky Symbols test, there was one of the first units they had done, so they had kept up with their achievement of their journals. But on the government test, it was getting later in the year, and they weren't keeping up with their journals, and it directly affected their success on the test. The control group, 71% was the class average, which is a C, almost a D. And then the students in the experimental group got a 91% for a class average, which is an A. So there's a 20% difference there. So there's definitely a benefit to having that extra person in the classroom. So if you look at the next slide, analysis of results, I definitely never anticipated when I joined the Professional Partnership Network how much I would get out of it, but how much it would benefit them. To see that growth and the difference, and how the students really mastered what they needed to by having that extra person in the classroom. Not only do you have one person who's concerned and knows about the content and is there to help you, but you have 2 people in there who care about each student, know what they need, their needs, and what they need to succeed. And they're also both in the classroom helping them along the way. We would go around, one of us would always be making sure if there was a student who had an IEP, there was that extra person to make sure that they were on task and receiving all of the services that they needed at that time. One person in the classroom cannot meet all the needs of each of the students and teach the lesson. And the students' achievement and progress on testing is essential. And so we really need to provide everything we can for our students. And so being a part of the PPN and using co-teaching and being a part of co-teaching was really beneficial to me as well as the students, as you can see. And just analyzing those results and seeing, I remember grading the test thinking, oh my goodness, it really does affect having that person, extra person in there, and their achievement reflects on their tests especially. So my acknowledgements, I would just like to thank Dr. Kim Nettleton. She has been very dedicated to the Professional Partnership Network, and she helped form it and keeps us on task, and without her I wouldn't have had these opportunities to be a part of the PPN and to develop these skills and learn the benefits of co-teaching, and also to the honors program for giving me the opportunity to further my education through this experience. So, and these are my references for my presentation, and thank you very much.
We both have questions. So go.
Oh, goodness. Well, first of all, thank you for this very important work. Why were those gaps there? Why was that so dramatic?
I think the gaps are there because, as the students progress throughout the year, and, at the beginning, they're cradled by the teacher, it's step by step, but as the year progresses, kind of moving at a faster pace. And so if the students aren't able to keep up with their achievement and making sure that they're doing everything they need to be successful, without having that second person in there to make sure that they're reaching what they need to, there's not that cradle. And so the students don't get that, and I think...
Okay, my second question is, who saw this data? Did the teachers that didn't have co-teaching see it?
Yes, yes. So I shared it with my fourth grade team, so...
Have you collected data between the students who are struggling versus the student who has been always independent at good pace?
Well, we looked at, since we were looking at each individual student, we were able to see, how they progressed, and just having that extra person in the classroom, they were able to better achieve the students who do have IEPs and 504 plans. By having that extra person in there, even if their special education teacher was also in there, the collaborative teacher, there was 3 of us in there, and so they would receive even more additional assistance. So there was definitely a difference there. I have a few questions.
So first is, so when we think about co-teaching, there's a lot of resistance that teachers have to engage in co-teaching experiences. And I think, so if we're looking, so I guess one question is, aside from co-teaching, was this a benefit of actual co-teaching, or was this a benefit of having somebody else in the classroom? So could the same result have been achieved with a para-educator in the classroom? The second thing that I guess is related to that, so maybe you won't answer each of these individually, but that's just something to think about. Co-teaching is difficult, and it's a relationship between 2 teachers, so it's really not effective when it's imposed from the top down. It should be more of a grassroots where teachers want to work together. Having said that, it's difficult, it's challenging, it requires a lot of professional development to understand how to do it together. And I guess, so usually co-teaching occurs with either a mainstream teacher and a special education teacher, or a mainstream teacher and an ESL teacher. And what usually emerges are what we would consider positioning issues, where the content teacher is the boss in the classroom, the special ed or the ESL teacher kind of gets relegated to a helper role, and the content teacher is the person who has the knowledge and is the real teacher, whereas the special ed teacher or the ESL teacher is just, well, you're not the real teacher, you're just the helper. So you didn't have that because you were also becoming a content teacher.
Right, exactly.
So how do you see the, so just, I guess, just your thoughts on what I just said. It's not really a question, just your thoughts on some of those issues I raised.
I think bringing up the relationship between the teachers, both people in the classroom, is really essential. Through being in the PPN, other students didn't have that relationship with their teacher, the mentoring, and so it kind of skewed their experience in the co-teaching in the classroom. Where with this experience, I had a really strong relationship with my teacher. We both knew what was expected. We were both kind of on the same page as far as teaching, and she was a younger teacher, so she could relate more to what I was going through and, being in school and everything, and so we were able to connect, and so we had more success with that because we had that relationship in place before we started teaching. And I think that's really essential because, like you said, there could be that power struggle there.